Okay, so this is gonna be the first video in a longer series, at least what I want to be a longer series of kind of tutorials going through historical garments and historical costume in general. I'm really interested in like a lot of the older techniques of tailoring and of costume making, but I want to kind of expand and broaden my knowledge base. So I thought this would be a great way to do it. So yeah, I'm gonna start with like the Renaissance, and then move from the Renaissance kind of forward in history. Initially, what I want to do is do like the a lot of the undergarments that we're using during the time. So the first few videos are gonna be on like just the basic shirt, the basic smock for women, breeches, plunder hose, and just a basic corset from the Renaissance era as well. Regardless, I want to start from these very basic garments just so that I then build on in terms of complexity, and all of these kind of basic garments are, from what I'm seeing at least, I'm still pretty early in my research, but from what I'm seeing, they're kind of the basic components and the basic parts of the development of pattern cutting techniques through history. So a lot of these tutorials are going to be focused very much on pattern cutting and the construction of the garments. I'm going to be using CLO3D to kind of go through it. It's a semi-tutorial in the sense that I'm not going to go like step by step, like this is how you make a pattern in CLO3D and this is how you sew stuff in CLO3D. Like, I'm going to assume most people that watch this already know how to use CLO3D, and if they don't, I mean, there's like a million tutorials on YouTube, so I'm not really gonna make the million first tutorial on like the basics of CLO3D. I more so just want to cover the stuff I'm like super interested in and have good insight in, I think, and that's like historical clothing and like pattern drafting techniques and stuff like that. So yeah, the first one that I'm gonna do in this video, you're gonna notice in the tutorial section of the video I'm dressed differently, and it's also the daytime, and that's because I'm now editing and I realize like I should probably have an introduction to these videos. So that's what I'm doing right now. But yeah, that's about it. In this first video, I'm gonna do a basic shirt from the time period, and then next we'll focus on a basic smock and some breeches and etc etc. But so yeah, let's get it. Start very easy, and we're gonna start with something very simple, and that's like shirts and smocks, and they were quite basic garments. These are gonna be from the Renaissance era, like I said, and even though they're quite simple in terms of the construction, there's still a few very interesting things that are gonna be nice to explore. So this is basically like a basic shirt from the time. I think this is Italian, and what I find interesting about these is like you are never meant to see these, but you would always see the cuffs and the collar. So that's why you see a lot of the cuffs and the collar on all of these shirts have some sort of ornamental detail. So a lot of embroidery, a lot of these like bone lacing trims, which I find super interesting. And you can see here, this is the shirt collar that is coming out from the collar of what I assume is like a doublet or something underneath this armor. So if we look at just the basic nature of these clothes, it's not that difficult. The body is made from one very long piece of fabric that is rectangular, and there's no cuts to it. You don't get any shape from the cut of the fabric. The only very small cut, and this would be the fabric here, the only small cut you get is you get a cut that's like a dart for the neck, and then the sleeves are just rectangular pieces, and so you get enough movement on the armpit and the shoulder. You have what is called a gusset, which is rare nowadays. You don't necessarily see gussets in clothes anymore. You might see it on some jackets here and there, but just simply because it's much easier to and much more cost effective to just make a regular shaped sleeve, and it also for the most part looks better. With all of these shirts you get gathering around the collar at the neck, and basically this part here that is cut gets gathered when you add the collar, and that gives it some shaping, that gives it some nice movement, and that's basically your basic structure for these shirts. And then there's some certain variations for the collar as well, which is a rectangular piece of fabric. You have, on this example, you have 5 pleats on the back of the neck, at the center back and on either side, and this creates the shaping for the collar, lets the collar kind of go around the neck in a nice way. Nowadays obviously we don't do it this way, we do a curved collar, but back then they just worked with rectangles. And this is Renaissance era, so it was still pretty early in like costume and like clothing design history. There wasn't that many advancements made in terms of the actual cut of the clothing. A lot of the interesting parts of it came from embellishments on the actual fabrics and stuff like that. This is a different one I want to do. Perhaps I'll do this one as well. What's interesting about this one is that it has a gusset at the neck here. So this triangular piece is a gusset, and it's separate from the body piece, the main piece. So I'm gonna give this one a try as well. So basically all of the patterns that you see, like these pages here, and a lot of the main images, are from a book called Patterns of Fashion, and it's the 4th book in the series. I think there's 5 or 6. Yeah, let's get started. So yeah, basically you add the gusset on the underarm like this. Let me just, well, now you see it better. You add it like this, and now when we sew up the sleeve, we basically sew this on the other sleeve here. We just sew this part to this part, and then this part here of the gusset is going to be sewn to here, and then this one is going to be sewn to the back. Weird way to do things, but you know, that's just how they did it back in the day. Basically all the examples like I have here, they don't fold over. So you see this, it naturally doesn't sit folded over like you'd expect a collar to. But again, with collars, when you flip them, they stay in the flip position as well. So it's not like it naturally goes to this position. I think they're also, these are archived pieces, so it's much better to hold them with the collar open. But you see in the pictures when they're worn, the collar is definitely turned over, And just look how big this color, like this is a gigantic color. Like this would be like 3 times the length of this. So you get this much clearance first of all, and then falling nicely. For this one, I'm happy to leave it at this size. Like, we also see examples of stuff like this that's just way smaller as a collar, and stuff like this. And you can kind of tell from this, but you can see that the collars don't fit perfectly. Like if you make a collar now with how we know how to make collars, you can make it sit perfectly when it gets folded over. But in these painters that capture things a lot better than some, you can see that they're capturing the fact that the collar does not sit perfectly when it gets folded over, because you could never get a collar to sit perfectly if it's just a piece of rectangular fabric, even with the pleats and stuff like that. You need to curve it a little bit and work the shape a little bit more with the cut. But we're definitely gonna try the pleats. I'm excited for the pleats, but yeah, so I'm actually quite happy with the shape. Obviously this for me is like unacceptable for a fit if I'm making something like modern. I think it's important to try to capture things, if you can, to try to capture like the techniques they were using and the types of cuts they were using, to get more like authentic recreation of what you're trying to express. Obviously there's much easier ways to do this, there's much more aesthetic ways to do this, but it's interesting to kind of see, to kind of follow the techniques of the actual garments to see what they actually look like. Because even with paintings, like you can really trust the paintings. That sounds like a conspiracy theory, like, bro, don't trust the paintings, it's all propaganda paintings. But in a sense it actually is. Like a lot of the people that got painted were very, very well-off people. It wasn't like you can take a fit pic nowadays and anybody has a phone and everybody can take fit pics. It was like you were part of like the very, very like powerful strata of society if you had a portrait or a fit pic portrait painting taken of yourself. So a lot of times they were quite stylized to make the people look better, or yeah, just in general better than they were. Like there's so many examples of this from history. So this is kind of the basic shape you would have. There's something I don't like about it. I think it's just the fabric. I think I have a hard time understanding this fabric. So I'm gonna try to find something like a little bit better. I think for this little band, first of all, I had to use a heavy twill fabric, like a very, very heavy fabric, and I also strengthened it just so it keeps its shape, because if it's if you do a lot of gathering in CLO into a piece of fabric that's not that strong, it sometimes stretches that fabric, when in reality that fabric would not get stretched. This is a little bit annoying, but yeah, I just made sure it's a heavy fabric, and I also think it's a little bit too. It needs to be a little narrower first of all, and then it still feels a little too, like the opening is way too big, so I'm gonna try to make it smaller here. Honestly, I'm not mad at it. I feel like this is quite accurate to how a shirt would look in those days. Don't mind the trousers; they got destroyed when I try to make everything work. I try to do everything quite quickly, and yeah, the fit of the trousers just got destroyed. But okay, so I'm back at the part where it didn't have the trousers, just so we don't slow it down needlessly. But I was gonna say, we are missing one part, and that is the um, basically, if you want to take it to a texturing program, you have to add a little band for all of the edge work here. So we're gonna do that, and you can see the way this goes. It goes uninterrupted around the side. I don't know if we can do that in CLO. It's gonna make it look weird. So I'm just gonna do my best to have one that looks decent. Okay, so for the one with the gusset, which is very, very interesting. Basically, the only difference between this shirt and this one here is that up here between these two, it is between these two, we would not have the collar sewn up all the way to this point. Let me just put these together so it's more clear. So we would not have the collar sewn up all the way to this point. We would basically go part way here. In here we add a gusset, and then we go around the gusset and in there. So I'm just gonna do that. And the gusset, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, is just a square. Oh, it's a triangle gusset. Well, it would be a triangle piece for sure, because otherwise it wouldn't be, you wouldn't sew it in. As to the size of it, we'll just have to kind of play around with it and kind of see. It's way better as a pattern, just because you have a nicer neckline. Like it allows for more curve, even though it doesn't really curve around. Like the neckline is very, very geometric here. Like the neckline, we were to do it here, it's basically, whoops, let's take the actual. Like this is what you get for the neckline. This kind of boom, 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 which is not ideal, but it's much better than what was before. Doesn't make the biggest difference, but it's still very, very interesting. And I think in real life, it definitely looks interesting. Like I've never seen this type of construction before. Last but not least, I remember that I forgot to add the pleats here, which I say last but not least, but this is gonna take a long time just because the way the pleats work in CLO. So yeah, I'm gonna quickly just add some small pleats here and see what changes those make, and then we'll be pretty much done with how kind of like just a very basic shirt construction from the Renaissance there. Okay, so basically we added the pleats here, and I think, because I've never seen this before, but I imagine what it's there for is to help with the collar flipping over. Because yeah, adding the pleats obviously kind of ruins it if you're just wearing it like this, but I don't think they wore the collars like these, so yeah, I think this helps. If you flip it, it gives it a little bit more to kind of go around the neck when you flip it, which is an interesting technique. Um, but yeah, that's just a very basic shirt. Okay, so I brought this into Substance Painter, and I textured it. I gave it like a linen texture. I just gave it an embroidery just to take it closer to my reference, and also for the paneling that we did on the side for the trims, I gave it like a lace texture, so it's like the original, and this is kind of very close to what I was looking to get. But yeah, this is looking nice. I overall like it. If there is one thing I will say is I think the fabric, just looking at the kind of folds we're getting and how it folds over onto itself, it still feels a little bit too thick compared to what I think the linen they would use for these shirts would be. Because I think that for shirting and for undergarments, these shirts were very much undergarments. You're only supposed to see the part that has embroidery for the most part. So you're only supposed to really see the top of the neck, the collar, the cuffs and stuff like that. You're not really supposed to see the rest. So the rest is supposed to be comfortable. So they would use a very fine linen, and I think this is just a little bit too thick. It seems like a little bit of a thicker linen than would be used. Again, these would be worn by people of like nobility, so like definitely high nobility, lower nobility as well. So they had the money, they had the resources to spend on finer fabrics, and a fine linen definitely something they would go for. So I think for the smock, for the next one I'm gonna focus on getting something a lot finer, even though if it's from a fabric that is not like necessarily like in the CLO program, if it's not like exactly what I'm looking for in the name, I'm only gonna look towards how it folds, to make sure we're getting something kind of close to accurate. But you can see like with a fabric, it just looks so much better. So much better overall, even with like the lace detailing. I didn't go too into detail. Like you can see here where like the I didn't make these match like it would be in real life. In real life, you'd have this as a continuous kind of line, and they would match. At least they would line up very nicely together. There's some other like small details that I'll probably have to figure out. Like, so basically, what I did for the texturing for this, just to go into it a bit, I had to. I made this like just a long strip of fabric. It's actually how it's done in real life as well. The only problem is that here it doesn't stretch like a bobbin lace would stretch. A bobbin lace would kind of fall into place around around the sharp corner, even though you're kind of building it in a straight line. But since this takes it as a fabric, it bends it like a fabric would bend. But yeah, all in all, I'm happy with this, and I think I'm gonna move on to the smock now, and we'll do the smock.